Our man's on the rig. Looks like a full house.
Well, consider it a target-rich environment.
I take it this isn't a stealth op.
You're certainly welcome to try, but you weren't exactly hired for your sneaking ability.
Death is my talent.
Sometimes, the first one is not always the one who sees all the fame. Just ask Ralph Baer, who created the Brown Box, which later became known as the Odyssey. While he was the first to create home video games, it was Atari that got all the money and fame. This is also the case with Kill Switch. Released in 2003, Kill Switch was a third-person shooter that offered something different than every other shooter out there. And that was making the focus of the game cover-based shooting. Games like Gears of War and Uncharted would not exist if it were not for Kill Switch paving the way. Though, unlike those games, copies of Kill Switch flew off the shelves, but instead of into people's home consoles, they went straight to the bargain bin. The story is a pretty interesting one. You play as Nick Bishop, who is a soldier that is controlled remotely by other people. This is an interesting change to most shooters, as the story twists and turns as control of Bishop is battled over by unseen parties. Many people want to use Bishop for their own plans, and you will always be wondering who is in control and why you're doing the things you are, all the while having flashbacks to your previous life. The story is more interesting than I anticipated it being.
Say my name.
But Kill Switch is not remembered for its story, but rather its innovative gameplay. As mentioned before, this is the first third-person shooter that heavily focused on cover-based shooting. So, if you are like me and tired of seeing it work its way into practically every shooter released these days, you now know where to focus your anger. Also seen its first appearance in games is the blind fire mechanic, which is not where you take your car to get fixed by a man wearing dark sunglasses and who uses a blowtorch like I thought it would be. But rather, you can pin yourself against a wall and shoot at your enemies without exposing yourself. This does two good things. One, you can shoot your enemies without getting shot yourself, and two, you don't have to get locked up and not allowed around elementary schools. So you go through the open environments that have bad guys littered all around, just waiting to come running out and meet your bullets. The enemies themselves are pretty dumb. They will use cover sometimes, but will pop their heads out quite often, and that is when you get them. All the environments have a good amount of barriers, or pillars, or walls that you can use for cover. It makes sense though. The developers are not going to invent this new game mechanic and not give you plenty of opportunities to use it, right? The environments are also varied enough too. Some levels are standard brown urban areas, but some see you on boats amongst other things. The problem with Kill Switch is there is not enough variety in the gameplay. The developers did a good job in creating a new way to play third-person shooters, but then it seems like they ran out of ideas. The game boils down to cover shooting here and cover shooting there. It would have been nice to see things mixed up a little, but what are you gonna do? The game should be played, not just for the history lesson it provides, but more importantly, because it's just a fun game to play.
I don't want this moment to end.